Hi, you're watching the Blues Connection. I'm Matty T, and this is our first episode of the year 2014. And today my guest is the extremely talented John Young.
You were very sweet to say that. Thank you, Matty T.
Our KUIC DJ, morning DJ, for almost 15 years now.
Be 15 years August 1st officially, and it feels like just yesterday that I started. I remember when this was a different music store back in the day. Boy, I've watched this whole town kind of grow up and change and shift, and I've still been there talking to you every morning and happy to keep doing it for as long as they'll have me. Check two.
Check two.
I'm glad you asked me over, Matt. You know, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, speaking of the show and the KUIC Hometown Morning Show.
Another fine question by me.
Yeah. Are these questions, have I been submitted questions where the Honeybee Trio, who you're very familiar with, and
right.
Rongeorge is, and they've been performing all over Solano County and now, you know, all over the country and pretty much all over the planet as they take a plane the next 2 days out to Japan to perform a bunch of shows there. They came by the KUIC Hometown Morning Show today, and they gave me this, which is a phenomenal way for them to say thank you to KUIC for the radio support that we've been able to give them. But I told the girls, Carly and Sarah and Natalie, I said, thank you guys for everything you've done for us, because this area, Solano County, started to nurture some really incredible talent, and they're part of that talent pool. Cheating Daylight, Matty T Blues Band, Honeybee Trio, Papa Roach, you name it. We've got some really incredibly talented people coming out of this area, and I've got a chance to see some of them, you know, from the time they started early on till where they are now. And so I appreciate that, girls. Thank you.
Well, that's very neat. You know, I'm curious. You know, you've been with KUIC about 15 years as the morning DJ there. Were you in the radio business before you got to KUIC?
I started off in Sacramento writing song parodies and performing on radio stations up there as a song parody person. I'd bring my acoustic guitar and some idea that I'd gotten the night before, and I'd come in and perform it live. The days, you know, live radio. There's no lip syncing back then. It's radio. It'd be hard to tell if you were lip syncing, but point is, that's how I got my start in radio. And ultimately, one of the stations I was working for, or doing song parodies for, underwent a change. They fired everybody, including me, from the crew. And one of the crew that was left over, Jennifer Steele, and I decided to apply for the job that was just about to open up at KUIC, and that was in the summer of '99. And we got the job. We were very lucky. And the community's embraced the show ever since then. We've had a really nice run. Jennifer left the show in '05. I've worked with Cynthia Seitz, who's amazing, Don Potter, another amazing guy I got to work with, and now I'm working with a local icon, Ron Brown, who's been in the KUIC radio market since the late 70s. You wouldn't know that by looking at him because he looks like he's 32 years old, but he's a funny guy. He knows just about everybody in town, and like you, he's a local product. He can talk a lot about the local stuff that happens here, so I'm lucky. Even though I'm not from this area, I feel like it's been kind of a second home for me.
Yeah, that's great. I noticed on the couple of visits that I've made to your office there in your
yeah, you've
radio
been on the
station,
show many a times, yeah.
You know, I was amazed at the technical aspect of your job while you're entertaining with your voice and your brain, your
What there is
improvising.
left of it.
Yes, I've noticed it's not quite what it was, but
Right.
no, that you're watching your computer screen and fading in and out, and it's like the timing of it. Tell me about how that works.
Well, I'll tell you, I did not get in the business to be a computer operator, and one of the daunting tasks I had to learn once I took over the show as the lead back in 2005 is I had to learn to run the equipment. Before that, for those first 6 years or so, I just got to walk up to the mic, have some notes in front of me, joke around, and wait to be told when to talk, when to do, you know what I mean? And I just talked. It was awesome. Then when I took over the show, I had to learn how to run the board. And fortunately for me, modern day board work is like working on a computer in your office. Most of it's computer-based and Windows-based. There are some faders, which you know well about, of all the PA systems you've run and all the amps
Right.
you've worked on. Once you figure that stuff out, and it becomes kind of rote, the same way it does when you're mixing something, then you can start being funny and just sort of let your hands and fingers hit the right buttons and do the right thing. As long as you've got one eye to what your timing's like, if you're going to run out of time, a song's going to end, or it's time to talk. Once those things start becoming habit, you can kind of be yourself and run it, which is fortunate for the radio people coming up through the ranks, because if you don't know how to work computers and aren't interested in doing that, you're not going to have a job. Back in the day, they would hire people to do all that work for you, and you'd sit there in your Hawaiian shirt and your goofy whistle and your noisemakers, and that would be what a morning guy would do, or gal. Now you've got to be able to be pretty proficient with the computer side of it, or you're out of luck.
And it's that way across the industry?
Unless you're Howard Stern, where you have like 75 people doing things for you during your show. But even Howard Stern does sit at a board. He does control microphones. So he does have some power over what goes on his show. So even at the highest levels, you've still got to have some understanding of how to operate the equipment. And that was not my first love. So it's been something I've had to learn to do over the years.
I found it really interesting. So they should bring in a camera and have the John Young radio TV show.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. We're coming up with some ideas today, people. I hope some of that stuff will come to fruition. We've had a couple of people come in and do some filming, and so they can see what goes on behind the scenes. And my hope is when you listen to my show, it doesn't sound like I'm doing anything except talking to you. If that's coming across, then I'm doing a good job.
Well, speaking for myself only, I know that I had no idea what you actually did, and I was amazed to watch you work, actually.
Well, let me repay the compliment. I've been amazed to watch you play guitar over the years. And as a guitar player myself, we talked about this a little bit before the show started. I've learned a lot by watching you tear those Stratocasters up, and it always makes me go back and relearn stuff. Or when I play with Randy Walker, it's the same thing. We've had a great session. I'll go home and start doing scales. I figure I got to catch up to you guys somehow. The only way is to keep practicing. You hear that, kids?
Practice. Hey, you're watching the Blues Connection, and I'm Matty T, my guest John Young. We're going to take a short break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Thanks for watching. Matty T here with John Young from KUIC, and John is, if you don't know, and many people do know, but some people don't, that John is a band leader as well. He's a musician, and which is one of the reasons that he qualified to be on our very prestigious show.
You do have to pass a background check.
Yeah, we're happy to have him here. So tell me about your we've done some gigs together in the past, and I know that you've got a new thing going, but I personally don't know the details of it. So
well, they're just emerging. Very few people do. Thank you for asking, though, Matt. I got to tell you a quick story about the Matty T Blues Band. You guys typically will have a shirt that comes out. If you're headlining a blues festival or something, you can get this year's shirt. And you had a shirt from a couple years ago that's a silhouette of you, and it's blue against black, and it's it's the Strat and everything else, and the hat, the kind of the Matty T look. That's the shirt I keep at KUIC in case I spill coffee on myself, somebody in the studio throws up on me, it's my backup. That's what I wear as I got to have some clothes. There you go.
I only hear you. See, I can't hear the clothing anymore.
Well, you can't hear the clothing. The wardrobe changes. But if it happens, I'm in a Matty T Blues Band shirt. We played more probably traditional rock stuff where you guys were a blues band, but you were kind enough to let us share the bill with you in a couple of shows. And what's happened now is Randy Walker and myself, along with two of my dear friends, John Taylor, a great bass player out of Roseville, and Dave Naves, who's a session studio drummer par excellence, really great guy out of Auburn. The four of us have teamed up, and we started doing some shows last year as an acoustic four-piece band. And it was fun. I didn't realize how much I missed playing more acoustic music where you have two real distinct guitars playing different things and guys singing harmonies. And I discovered quite quickly you can't hide behind distortion that doesn't exist when you're playing acoustic music. You've really got to play well, and you've got to play with each other, and you've got to look and watch what's going on and really have your vocals dialed in. We had so much fun doing that when the electric band decided to take a break at the end of the year, it was more my decision than anybody else's, but I just needed to get out of that grind. We decided over the next year we're going to play a bunch of select gigs in this acoustic format, and it's given me a chance to really practice my playing, to get really good playing with Randy Walker, who's an incredible player. So you can't show up to the party, can't show up to Randy's party unless you're ready to party. Let's put it that way. You got to practice, and it's really opened up my eyes to a whole bunch of music I wouldn't normally do, including some blues-based stuff.
What kind of material, like from?
We're picking from everything. We're doing, whether it's Hendrix, whether it's Stevie Ray, to more mellow stuff from Crosby, Stills and Nash, to Marshall Tucker band stuff. things that can go back and forth where you've got a lot of different guitar voicings, not just campfire stuff, although we'll do some Dylan things that are just strumming and singing, but it's given us a chance to play some pretty cool stuff and to get better as instrumentalists,
Yeah,
get better as musicians, because you have to. When you're stripped down like that, I don't know if you've ever done acoustic gigs
Yeah,
with
I
your
have.
band, but do you notice there's no place to hide?
You can't hide.
You can't hide. You're the only guitarist in most of your bands anyway, so you can't hide anyway. But if you're a rhythm guitar player playing with a guy like Randy Walker and you've got enough distortion, there's a place to hide.
Right.
Not when you're playing an acoustic music where it's really exposed. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Kinda
What was
fun.
your first guitar, John?
My first guitar I ever owned was a 70s era, looked almost like a Fender Jaguar Harmony guitar was the name of the company that built it. It had 4 strings. It was missing the 2 lower ones.
Distributed by Sears.
Thank you. Distributed by the Sears and Roebuck Company. I got it at a garage sale from a kid who was in a band down the street, and I just worshiped this kid because he could play guitar, and I wanted to be like him. So I bought this old Harmony. I think I paid $10, which in 1975 was a lot of money for a young kid. That guitar, though, and eventually I used a belt to make a strap. It was just, I could maybe play 3 chords. But the first guitar that I have the best memories of was once I established myself as a fairly competent rhythm guitarist and was ready to jump out into the Sacramento music scene at the time and try to get a gig. I had saved my money. I had some overtime. I drove up to Grass Valley to Foggy Mountain Music right there on East Main Street. And hanging in the window was a black 79 Les Paul Standard. Much like the one behind us, although in black and, clearly worn.
Like the Gibson Les Paul hanging on the Fender surfboard?
That you put up just for me. Thank you for that, my Fender friend. Anywho, that black 79 Les Paul was what got me started. And
Do you still have that guitar?
my brother Brian has it, who the drummer
I know
that I
Brian.
played with for years, my awesome brother Brian. We have traded guitars and guitar parts and guitar stuff over the years, and my brother, who fancies himself and is actually a pretty good guitar rebuilder, he does work on them and he restores old guitars, and he wound up getting that 79 away from me. I thought I would never get rid of it. You never want to get rid of your first guitar, but I wound up trading it for a 78 Gold Top, which had a much better neck. And I thought, I'm going to actually play this one where my
it was a
79 was
gold
kind of
top.
retired. It was a gold top, and I couldn't resist. So
Yeah, something about a gold top.
yeah. So now I have a gold top. I have that 78. I've got a 2001 Cherry Sunburst, kind of a Jimmy Page looking standard. And then a 80s era Flying V that's been redone in white, which is a pretty guitar. And my newest acquisition, my Gretsch Rancho Super Fat Jumbo Acoustic Electric. That looks like a Gretsch Country Gentleman. It's that orange, but it's an acoustic guitar. This guy sells guitars. He knows he's forgotten more about guitars than I'll ever know, but that's the story of my first one.
I have one you have to have.
What do you got? Of course he does. Honey, I left my credit card at home. Don't worry. What do you got? Okay,
I'll tell you later.
somewhere
I'll show
down
you a picture.
I don't need, you kill me, you and your stuff. If you haven't been down here, you got to check out the guitars. Unbelievable. Are you willing to tell me about your first guitar? Because I'm fascinated with guys who are really kind of Strat only, and that's really where they're focused. And your playing's a little bit different than guys who are complete Les Paul guys. What got you so stratified, and what was your first one?
Jimi Hendrix.
Okay, well
Yeah.
that's a good place to start.
My first Strat was a Strat copy. Aspen
Oh.
was the brand, made in Japan, one of those made in Japan copies.
Okay.
And so I played that for a year or two. And then I got a real Stratocaster, which I still have to this day.
See,
It's sitting in right there. You can see it. You can't see it from
okay.
behind
The
camera.
white one or the light blue one?
The white one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And a boat anchor. It weighs about 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And
like my 79 Les Paul.
well, that
it's like a
was the
pool
era.
table. I know.
In
that's
the
right.
70s, the late
Yeah.
70s, the thing was the heavier the guitar, the more sustain you would have. That's what
Okay.
they told us. I don't know, but that's what I heard.
Right.
And they were all like heavy guitars,
Mm-hmm.
and which is not so popular today, but they're still around.
Is that all you ever play? Depending on, because you've done studio work and you've played with other guys. Will you ever pick up any other guitars just for
I do
tonal
have one Les
experimenting?
Paul.
That's what I mean. Do you ever just go, I want to see what it feels like to play that neck, or it just doesn't interest you?
I always think that I want to play it, but I never do. I always pick up.
Okay.
I have about too many Stratocasters.
There's about 400 at last count.
Let's get another Stratocaster because they're all different.
I'm just curious, and I've asked Randy
Yeah.
Walker, my guitar playing partner, the same things. I said, where do you gravitate one way or another? And I'd like to think that I've sort of put the hex on Randy because he's become more of a Les Paul player and plays them more frequently. And of course, because he's so awesome, he tears it up on pretty much any guitar, and he builds his own guitars too. But I've always been curious what makes where you go in one direction or another. Is it because your first guitar was a Strat? Is it because you loved Hendrix versus Jimmy Page?
Think
What's the deal?
if your guys played a certain thing, you might go that way.
I think that's kind of what happened to me.
You get used to it, the knobs, where they are.
Right.
Because if you move the knobs on me,
you're done, huh?
I'm always on the volume knob. And so,
Really?
just turning it up and down and in between songs and dialing in, how loud you want to be. On a Stratocaster, it's right there where my pinky can grab it. On a Les Paul, I have to move my hand down there.
Well, let me give you a Les Paul hint, baby. Leave it up all the time, all right? Get the lead channel on there, crank everything up to 10, let your Marshall do the work. Don't monkey around with the knobs, baby.
That's the kind of guy I am.
He's a knob monkeyer.
I'm a knob monkey.
All right.
Knobmonkey.com.
So if you'd like to, our new project, the Knob Monkeys, we'd love to have you on board.
It's a new superstar band with many, 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 many famous people who haven't signed up yet, but
good times. Yeah, and I'll need to find out more about when you're playing somewhere, Matty T, because for those of you who, he doesn't just host a show and run a great music store. The guy he'll make you go back and woodshed a little bit after you've seen him play.
Well, thank you.
Where's my $20?
It's on the way. Check's in the mail. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. Thanks for joining in. We'll be right back.
The Ibanez RGA series with a Wizard HB neck, special horn cut, edge zero tremolo, barless top block, and an active EQ. The Ibanez RGA Electric Series. Ibanez.
Hi, we're back. I was just going to ask John some questions about his formative years as a musician. And tell me, John, what was you remember your first show, your first gig?
How could I forget the first show? We formed our band in junior high school down in southern Orange County, where I grew up in Dana Point. The band's first name was Lexington Union, and we got that by literally throwing a dart at a history book, and one landed in Lexington something and Union something or other, so we were Lexington Union. And we played the Dana Point Yacht Club's Christmas party on one of the moving boats. So they've set us up on, I think it was the Stardust was the name of the boat. I can remember the boat. That's pretty good. I'm not as old as I look. My memory's working. We were on the Stardust, which our bass player Kenny's dad owned, so it made it easier for us. And we went around Dana Point Harbor playing Jingle Bell Rock. All we knew, I was the drummer at the time, so I just kind of kept that beat steady, and we played Jingle Bell Rock and sang without a PA, and that was, I think they bought us ice cream. But that counts as a gig, doesn't it?
Yes.
That was it. That began
there was ice cream compensation.
Ice cream compensation, and there was all kinds of other junior high girls there, and we were just, look at us, we're playing in a band. Hi, see you in math class tomorrow. Yeah, it was good times. And that started, and I think, to be honest, I've been gigging ever since then. I've always played at least a few gigs a year, even if like you were either between bands or something. I always find somebody to play a show with and go do a gig. So.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And it progressed from where after that? After the ice cream compensation?
Yeah, we started making real money. It's the high school dance circuit. And nothing is cooler, except maybe if you're the star quarterback in a high school, to be in a band that's playing at your own high school. Okay? Cha-ching. I would have played for free, but we would get compensated by like the Associated Student Union would have like a fund to pay bands, and we'd make $100 to play during lunch or to play one of our dances. I mean, we played the homecoming dance for a couple of years because we were in a band.
Right.
And believe me, since I had zero athletic ability, that was my entry into the social strata of high school was being in a band.
How about your amplifiers? We talked about guitars. Do you have
Yes.
any favorite amplifiers?
I do, and I've had Marshall amps ever since I've had a guitar, ever since I got that Les Paul we talked about in the last break. And I love the distortion tone of a Marshall. Now, most of my Marshalls have not been the tube variety because I couldn't afford them when I started, so I would get the solid state variety. But with the technology, the solid state amps, the 100-watt ones that I play through now with a 412 cabinet of Celestion speakers, I can pretty much get a good chunky rhythm sound out of it. And the lead sound, one of the lead channels for when I can play some lead work, are good for me too. I fantasize about one of those big Jimi Hendrix Marshall heads he had that are all tubes, but I'm not smart enough to replace the tubes when they blow out. So I like an amp I can just plug in and switch on and go. I play through some Peavies that I like too for practice stuff. But it's pretty much been Marshalls, either smaller ones or bigger ones for some of the bigger halls that we've done over the years.
Yeah, Icon brand. Good amps. Yeah. All right. Well, that about wraps it up. We're gonna John and I are gonna play some music here in just a couple of seconds. Here, we're gonna take a break and strap on some guitars, and we'll be right back. Thanks again for watching. This is the Blues Connection. I'm Matty T. It's my friend John Young here from KUIC and rock and roll fame, and we'll be right back.
Rock and roll hoochie coochie.
Hey! Little Ray Charles for you, just because we can. Hey, mama, don't you ever treat me wrong. Come on, love, come and love me all night long. When you sit me down and I die in misery, come on, girl, come on and see about me. Tell me what I say, 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 oh yeah. Ooh, tell your mama, go on and tell your pa. You think I'm gonna have to ship you back? I said I'll ship you back to Arkansas. When you see me, woman, when you see me in misery, come on, girl, come on and see about me. Tell me what I say, what I say, what I say, what I say, what I say. Oh yeah, Matty, tell me what I'd say. Come on. Don't you ever treat me wrong. Come and love me all night long. When you see me down in the come on, girl, and come on and see about me. Tell me what I say, 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 what I say.
John Young, everybody.
Matty T, everybody. Come on, Jack.